Hey guys, it's Aseem Sharma, training manager from Solframe Consulting. Again, I do hope you're all doing well. Today I want to discuss about the factors of success. Now, with success, it's interesting. I've mentioned this before. There are a few aspects. Being driven, being motivated, having focus, applying a certain technique as well, if you know. So let's say you want to become better at writing, then just imagining it is not going to help. But, perhaps doing some research, even something very basic as, just going online and searching on Google that look how to write better, taking down some points, then obviously practicing it and then reviewing it and then trying to improve upon whatever mistakes you make. Getting it checked even by automated software. There are many things you can do, right? And it's this practice and learning process. Now, the other thing is that I have noticed this, and I've mentioned this even before. There was a video I had made last year about salary negotiation. So, just to bring you up to speed for those who have not watched that, we have so many videos now on our platform. Um, it's a consensus. Let's talk about India right now. It's a consensus that if you work in an organization and you leave it for whatever reason, let's say you're laid off because of this pandemic or some other company related issue or economic turmoil, or you resign, or any other reason, or it's a contractual job and the term has ended. So in such cases, when you look for another job, they typically ask you what was your last drawn salary, how much were you earning, and most people will answer that. They feel obliged to, even if they're not comfortable. The fact of the matter is, irrespective of what a company may claim in terms of their policy, there's no legality to it whatsoever. So, if someone asks you, what were you earning, you can simply refuse. And I do it. And I do it for a reason. There are two reasons. Typically, one, I'm able to negotiate well, and I end up signing an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. And this was advised to me also by a good friend as well. Um, that's one. So you shouldn't really be telling them anyway. And number two, there's this concept of being underpaid or overpaid. Typically, it's being underpaid. Let's just take an example. I won't mention anyone specific, but if you look at our film industry or any film industry or entertainment industry, and a lot of celebrities, alleged incomes are published online. How much truth there is to that, I don't know, but it gives you an idea. And if you look at some celebs, you may wonder, why do they command such a high salary? Or sports people, or footballers, things like that, right? Some people actually may be overrated and overpaid, let's be honest. And some people, those people who typically aren't so commercially successful, but perhaps, are more into social films, if we're talking about the film industry, again, I'm not mentioning any names here, they are kind of underpaid. They are, and they deserve more. So, and typically then they may even go to Hollywood. That also happens as well. I think I'm narrowing it down a bit, but you understand what I'm saying, hopefully. Um, so it's funny because certain jobs they will actually mention a salary scale, and if you're able to do your market research, find out the average salary by doing some research and looking at certain portals of that particular company if it's big enough, and if not, then on average, how much would a content writer earn, how much would a trainer earn, how much would an accountant earn, irrespective of what the industry or domain may be. That's one thing. Now, if they haven't been transparent, and unfortunately a lot of companies do this, they don't disclose their salary, then you need to have an idea based on these things. Okay, I'm applying for, let's say, a managerial position in this. This is what the rough scale should be. Obviously, it can be quite varied as well, to the tune of maybe even three or fourfold. But I have an idea, and I'm going to quote this, and I'll be able to back myself up. Back myself up in terms of my financial obligations, in terms of my experience, my skills, the market value, what my market value may be, things like that, right? And it's happened to me. Many people say, "Okay, Aseem, thank you very much, bye bye." They're not interested. They will corner me, literally corner me into telling them what my salary is, or else you won't even have a chance. That's fine. I think I've missed a lot of opportunities that way. But do I want to be underpaid? No. Do I want to be undervalued or made to feel uncomfortable? No. The only people who can actually demand to see your payslips or bank statements would be if you're applying for credit or loan, something like that, or the income tax department. That's all I can think of. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's as simple as that. And I actually received a call today from an HR regarding, a good opportunity, or it seemed so anyway. And she asked me, and I explained that I cannot. One thing is the NDA that I had signed, which is true, and I would not do that because I've worked for a company in the past, and they may hire me again. I will remain loyal to them in that sense. If I've signed something, there's a value to that. Why would I? It's not about fearing the repercussions. It's about principles. Why would you ask someone to do that? And this really annoys me. This really gets to me. This culture, be it corporate culture or whatever you call it, it creates a vicious cycle. Essentially, what people do is they'll work at a company and they will often quit, and they won't work there for very long, maybe 1 year, maximum 2 years, and they'll go somewhere else. Then the questions will be that, look, why did you leave? Stability issues, operational issues. Who are you to judge as hiring HRs? I'm sorry if I'm coming across as being quite blunt and offensive, that why someone left when you guys have been instilled with this culture or custom to, say that, okay, well, how much were you getting there? We'll give you this much hike. Ideally, you have no right to ask that. And if you didn't do that, people would probably stay and retain themselves in one organization. You'll also minimize your attrition and shrinkage. But unfortunately, the world doesn't work like that, does it? I wish it did, because that would really improve things. I've sometimes been asked that, oh, you only spent 3 years at this company, when actually I was laid off because of the pandemic. I said, only 3 years? Then I'm busy looking through their profile on LinkedIn, let's say, and I say, hey, you've changed jobs after every 1 year. I mean, don't you think that's a bit hypocritical? I don't know. So again, it sounds blunt, but it's true, right? So be very mindful, just be prepared. And another thing, if it's just the start, usually, for a position, you would have multiple interviews, at least two or three. And this is your first interview, this preliminary HR round as such. Then another thing you can say, and I've said this before, some people have complied, is that, listen, discussing this right now, especially if you haven't given me a range or you're withholding it, that is, a little immaterial. What I can say is that I'm open to negotiation, and excuse me. Why don't you gauge my skills? Obviously, you may assign me an assessment as well. You'll gauge my communication skills and my suitability for the job, and you would already see my experience. And based on that, that can also affect things. I mean, what's the point of hiring someone, let's say, who has a lot of experience, but they don't seem to perform very well in the interview, versus someone who may have, a moderate amount of experience or little experience, but they're good with what they're saying. They are, attempting the assessments. I have been given assessments, and some assessments I've done average, and I thought, well, I can't really say much about that. This is already out of my comfort zone. Excuse me. Or there have been also times where I've been given an assessment and I've done really, really well. Still, I have not got that job simply because of this salary thing that you didn't tell us how much you earn. I really wish there's an overhaul in this culture because, frankly, it's pathetic. It forces us to leave a job and not be able to grow within a company and be rewarded because we get stuck maybe on a lower slab and we don't move on. We are almost compelled to change jobs just to get a hike. It's not sustainable. I don't think it's fair on the people who train us. It's not fair on the companies as such. And ultimately, if you look at the bigger picture, it affects our economy as well, where there's so much transfer of workforce within the private sector. Right now, I'm just talking about the private sector. Why? It doesn't make any sense to me. Now, when I had spent most of my life in the UK, and you can correct me for those viewers who are watching this internationally. Whenever I switch jobs, no one actually asks me my salary. It's considered inappropriate. It's considered private and confidential. Maybe they do. Maybe in my situation they didn't. But most of the time the salary was advertised, and I'd give them a figure, and we'd negotiate, and it would be as simple as that. There's a reason why bank statements are considered private and confidential, as are payslips. And I think we're a little too lax here. So if you don't really think that you can change your method when negotiating salary and you will end up disclosing what you were earning before, fine. But what I would like you guys to take from this video is, don't be undervalued. Express what your value is. I mean, it's also happened to me actually that I gave an accurate range that, okay, this is how much I was earning. Let's say it was between 10 to 20. So I said I was earning somewhere between 10 to 20. And they said, what are your expectations? And I know that they can pay me, let's say, 40. So I would say, okay, maybe 30, 35. Then they would say, oh, that's too much because you just said this. Um, One last thought I want to, leave you with. So in addition to not being undervalued, um, I like to help people selflessly, knowing that the majority of those people will probably not reciprocate. And I've even mentioned this in the LinkedIn post as well. If only the world was kinder. There are lots of lovely people out there, but they seem to be overshadowed by those people who only seem to think about themselves. But what I'm trying to say here is, indirectly, I've done a lot of philanthropic work. I have helped people without charging them. So in a way, I've worked on an honorary basis. And when people ask me that, look, what was your previous salary? And there have been gaps and all sorts of disruptions because of this pandemic for lots of people. There are still some people who have not been able to find employment in their original niche, if they had one, prior to the pandemic. And they've had to go into other avenues. And that also has included me to an extent. Um, so being adaptable is important. But in addition to that flexibility, simply saying that, look, I help people for free. That doesn't mean I'm going to work for free or that I'll be undervalued. And every job is different. There will be companies who can pay more because they're bigger and more established. And also depending on the seniority. So I was a trainer and then I was laid off. And then, I got this opportunity, thankfully, to, work here as a training manager. And for those people who say that you can't skip levels, well, it happened. I skipped the TL level, I skipped the AM level, I'm already a manager. And that's something that perhaps could have happened early on as well. But for one reason or another, I was not growing. I must have also made mistakes myself. But I never left my old company, contrary to what other people would have advised, that just spend a year there, maximum two. Don't stagnate. Because if you stayed at one company for too long, you're judged by the hiring team. Why are you there? Is there something wrong? Are you not employable? If you don't stay there too long, why have you left? Why so many frequent changes? We all know it, and to be honest, these are silly questions. So don't undervalue yourself, and I would suggest stop disclosing your salary. It doesn't make any sense. I literally had this HR screaming at me that how am I supposed to negotiate with you if you don't tell me what you were getting? I simply responded, what if I worked for free? How do you put a hike on zero? You can't. Because a lot of what we do in our lives for the betterment of others is invaluable. We can't put a price on that. I'm sorry, I'm getting a bit sentimental. Anyway, I hope you found this useful. For further tips and tricks, please do subscribe to this channel if you haven't already done so. Give this a like, a thumbs up. You can also find us on FB, Insta, LinkedIn. I will share the links with you. And you can also visit our website, solframe.in. That's SOLFRAME.in. And you can enroll on our courses. And we offer all sorts of things from personality development, public speaking, interview skills, soft skills, communication training, and you can find out more there. Till next time, please do take care. Thank you very much, and goodbye.